Everybody, it is 10:15, technically 11:15 here. I am coming to you live from Yuma, Arizona. Typically we're in Salinas, but today for Monarchs Online, we're in Arizona, a little time change here. So hope everybody's doing well. Go ahead and let me know that you're here. And looks like Tina's first to come on. Hi, John and Tina. Good to see you. Good morning. Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome, everyone, to Monarchs Online. If you're new here, my name is Jeremy Galimba. Let me go put that up there for you. And I am actually filling in today for Max and Deanna. They are out sick with COVID, and so we're going to take some time at the beginning to pray for them and just pray that they recover quickly. Max had everything planned for today for all of you, and just got nailed with COVID. So we're going to pray for the whole family, but hopefully everyone else is doing well. You are staying safe. COVID is still a thing for sure. So, like I said, I'm here in Yuma, Arizona. So right now it's 11:16 or 16. So little time change there, but I'm still mentally at 10:15. All right, let me go ahead and catch up in the comments here. Good morning, Tina and John. Good morning, Twan. Good to see you. Good morning, Anton. Happy Sunday to you, brother. Good to see you. Good morning, Bernie. Good morning, Twan. And yeah, let's go ahead and pray really quickly for Pastor Max and Deanna, and just pray that God would heal them completely. I know Jenna started it off with COVID, and then gave it to Deanna, and then to Max. So let's go ahead and pray before we get started with today, this morning. Thank you, Father, for this Monarchs family, God. Thank you, Lord, for this time that we can gather together online. And you see how COVID has impacted the Manley family, God. We just ask, God, for your healing virtue to be extended to Jenna, Lord, and Deanna and Max. You see, Lord, the symptoms that they are suffering from, God. And we just ask, God, that your healing virtue would flow to them, God, that you would just eliminate those symptoms quickly, let them not linger, Lord. I pray that they would have ease of breathing, that you would help them, Lord, to get rid of any congestion that they have, any sinus pressure, God. I just pray, God, any fever, that you would just lift it from their bodies, Lord. Many of us know all too well how it feels to have COVID, and I pray, Lord, that you would just have mercy and extend mercy to them, and bring healing to them quickly and speedily, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. That's also the good thing. A good thing in it is that that we're doing church online, so we can have church anywhere, no matter what's going on in our lives. So that is a blessing. All right, Deanna chiming in. Good morning. Absolutely, no problem. Glad I can help you guys out. All right, good morning, Cynthia. And Max chiming in and says, thank you, Team Galimba. Yes, it is a family commitment. We are on, we took a little vacation. We headed out to Disneyland. We'll talk about this a little bit. Actually, while I'm talking about it, let's go ahead and pose that question. We are on our little vacation, and I know for a lot of you, Thanksgiving break is a time for vacation. So I'm curious, how do you like to spend your vacation time, Monarchs family? How do you like to spend your vacation time? What do you like doing? Where is it? So we're in the desert. I know the Manleys enjoy spending time in the desert, but we're in Yuma right now. We did take a little detour to Disneyland for a couple of days, and then we drove into Yuma yesterday. So it's been a little busy. And we're actually going to talk about that today, ironically. I don't know about you, but very often when we are on vacation, we kind of feel like we need a vacation after, or from our vacation, after our vacation. We get home and then you feel so tired, overworked, sometimes even more than before you left. So today we are going to talk about a solution for that problem. And then we are going to make a little connection to the series that Max and Deanna have been doing on the greatest commandment. I don't know about you, but I've really been enjoying that series. So I didn't want to just leave it hanging. I do want to make a little connection there too. All right. Let me catch up on the chat for you guys. All right. Well, if you have an answer to that question, how you choose to spend your vacation time, just a real short one. Where do you like spending vacation? All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about vacations and then how that will connect to the greatest commandment. Let's see, Deanna chiming in. This is my fever hit 105 on Tuesday evening. And the prayer group prayed, and with a couple of hours, it came down and stayed down. Yes, awesome. Let me get my applause going here. Yes. Excellent. That is great news. Prayer works. Prayer works, everybody. Prayer works. God cares. All right. Cynthia putting down spending time with her sister and family in Sparks, Nevada. Very good. Bernie coming in with the best answer, and you're being kind of prophetic here, Bernie. I try to do as little as possible. Yes, we are so busy in life, and sometimes we feel like we just can't wait for that time where we get to rest. And then when we have vacation, then we don't really spend it resting. So, well said, Bernie. All right. So let's go to the speed of love. That's the title of. That's the title of this message this morning, and we've been talking about what God's greatest commandment is. And Pastor Max and Deanna have been in the middle of this series, and for those of you who don't remember, it centers around a verse in Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 through 5. And it reads this way: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. There is a key word. There's a couple of key words, well, several. But there's a key verb, and that is love. After you hear, the next command is to love. Love the Lord your God. And at the heart, really, of God's greatest commandment is the word and the action of love. And unfortunately, love is the one virtue that is often misunderstood and most often under attack in our culture. I'll just say that again. Love is the one virtue. If the enemy is going to attack any kind of virtue in our lives, it's going to be the one that's linked to the greatest commandment. And it is the one virtue, if you think about it, it's the most misunderstood. People don't know really exactly what that means to love. It's miscommunicated in many instances. And then also it's under attack just in our culture. And I think one of the ways that it's under attack is what we're going to be talking about today. And it's in the form of busyness or hurry. I like this quote by Japanese theologian Kasuki Koyama, and he says this: God walks slowly because he is love. If he is not love, he would have gone much faster. Love has its speed. It's an inner speed. It's a spiritual speed. It's a different kind of speed from the technological speed to which we are accustomed. It is slow, yet it is Lord over all other speeds, since it is the speed of love. And I'm obviously reading at a certain speed. But I think the point is that love, which is the greatest virtue, it has a speed. And I think one of the enemies, the greatest enemies to love, is the speed of life at which we live. Because love has a speed and it happens to be slow. It's slow and it's intentional. It reminds me of 1 Corinthians 13 when Paul's writing his letter to the church in Corinth, and he describes love. It's the love chapter. And what is the very first description that Paul uses to describe love? He says, love is patient. Very first one, for a reason. Love is patient. And love, I think we need to remember love has a speed. And today we're going to talk about the greatest enemy of love in our modern culture, which is hurry. All right. Before we get into that, I'm going to catch up with you guys on the comments. And let's see. Good morning, Sarah Beth. Good to see you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Sarah Beth. Yes, putting it all together. Thank you for mentioning that, Sarah Beth. And Pastor Max, how would I like to vacation? It would be a European river cruise. That does sound interesting. I like the pace of a river cruise. It's just a cruise in general. I don't think we've ever been on a cruise yet. Deanna says, my favorite way to vacation is either by a body of water in a warm place or a big city with good food and museums. But no matter what or where I go, my husband and daughters are key to a good vacation. Yes, the people who are with you are key to good vacation. Good morning, Dudley. Good to see you. All right. Bernie says, Jeremy is always prepared. Okay, when I grow up, I don't know about that, Bernie. You may think differently after today. We'll talk about that. All right. Hey, Myrna, good to see you. All right, so let's get into our study this morning. So there is a book that I'm sure many of you have read already related to speed sickness. One of my favorite authors, his name is John Mark Comer. And, not that. Speaking of being prepared here, Bernie. All right, where was I? Speed sickness. No, up here. I think I missed a slide. There it is. There we go. It's right in front of my face. So this book right here, John Mark Comer's The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. I highly recommend this book. It is very transformative, and it is a book that you'll continue to go back to. I feel like it is a. I've read it multiple times. This is a frequent flyer for me. I often reread books because they're really good, and I don't want it to be just information. I want it to be application, and this is a book definitely worth applying to your life, and we're going to talk about this today. So if you haven't pick up a copy. We're going to be talking about some of the basic principles today, so make you a little bit curious. I would highly encourage you to read through it. So John Mark Comer's The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And so in this book, though, he talks about hurry and how it is the primary enemy of our spiritual growth and development, and obviously the enemy of love in our lives. So let's take a look at a couple principles that he talks about there. So first, let's get into speed sickness. Now I'm on track here. So I don't think it's new news to anyone that over the years, our world has become increasingly faster. Everything's faster. So I'd be curious to see what technologies you think of when we talk about the world being faster. What technologies come to your mind? So what are the technologies that you think have made our world faster? And then while you're putting that in, let me go ahead and catch up with you guys on the comments. Jaden, hey buddy, good to see you online. Good morning. And Deanna chiming in about the book. Yes, this is a fantastic book. John Mark Comer's work is so good. Yes, absolutely. Every book that he's written so far is just amazing. Very deep thinker, very culturally relevant. So let's see. Oh, thank you, Martha. Good to see you. Thank you for praying for the Manleys. Absolutely. Dudley putting in, every time you reread a good book, it reveals another lesson. So true. Especially the greatest book or collection of books ever, the Bible. That's what we do every Sunday. All right, Sam coming in, air travel. So air travel being, I'm assuming, the way that the world has gotten faster. Absolutely. We were talking about that even on the drive here. It's quite a little drive to Yuma, but we were talking about, can you imagine how long it would have taken us if we would have had to walk or by horse or something like that? And the kids are like, oh, no way. I mean, for all the complaining that we do, like, are we there yet? In a car, I was like, we're traveling, 70 miles an hour. So can you imagine if we had to walk, how long it would take us? So definitely that, Sam. Let's see. The microchip. Ooh, Bernie, you're going super fast on us here. Jaden come in with instant messaging. Yeah, that's very true. Now people can get one idea to another faster and more efficiently. Jenna says trains, Snapchat, TikTok, superconductors. Yeah, absolutely. Drive through anything. Yes, drive through fast food. Even simple things like the clock. I mean, there was a time that there was no clock and you just kind of went to bed when the sun went down. Things like telephone, right? Even the microwave, space shuttles, computers, all that stuff. I think the internet even too is one of those things that has really sped up information in the world. Sam says 3 months and 10,000 miles, not very fast. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Bernie, yes, microwave. Cynthia coming in with computers, cell phone, cars, the internet. Yes, you guys are hitting them all. And if we think about it, interestingly enough, with all this advancement in technology, you would think that the world would feel much simpler. That like, hey, well, we have all of these luxuries, all these conveniences. It should make the world feel simple, so easy. But actually, if you think about it, it's doing the exact opposite to us. And faster is not always better. Faster is not always better. It was interesting in the 1960s. There were these futurists in the world, and they had these theories about how we would be working in the modern age. And I think they said by like 1985 or something like that, that the average American would only work about 22 hours a week, which is super laughable, because they were trying to predict, hey, wow, with all these technologies, we're kind of concerned here because maybe the main problem in the future is going to be everybody's going to have too much free time, too much leisure. But we've found like the exact opposite. Instead of working 22 hours a week, we're averaging 40 hours easily a week. And they even said that you would only work like 27 weeks in the year, which is just crazy to even think of. So I think the opposite has happened. We have, for all these time-saving, ease of life technologies, we've actually crammed more into our lives. These things have created space, and we don't know what to do with that space, so we just cram it with even more things. And that is actually the definition of hurry, which is now an epidemic in our society for sure, where we have so many things that we just cram into life that it's just overwhelming. And there's actually, John Mark talks about this in his book. There's actually a thing called hurry sickness, and it's a mental and psychological disease. It's a sickness that we can experience, and whether we realize it or not, probably most of us have and are currently experiencing that sickness right now. And so we'll talk about some of the symptoms here, and we'll see whether maybe you're experiencing some of that hurry sickness. Let me go ahead and catch up the chat with you guys. Deanna saying, I think that it has made our world more hectic, chaotic, and exhausted. Absolutely. Totally agree. Max putting in the fastest generation has the most epidemic anxiety. Yes, absolutely true. And I really think all the mental issues, yes, I believe COVID is part of that, and the pandemic, but I think, we just continue to add more and more to our lives. They're so busy and so complex that it just eliminates our ability to do anything that is worth of value and meaning and have spiritually rich and fulfilling lives. And we'll talk about that more in detail. Myrna says, try 60, 70 hours a week for it. Yeah, absolutely. It's becoming like that. And now that we have the ability to work from anywhere, then a lot of companies are expecting work at any time. Cynthia putting in, people are in such a rush, they forget and slow down and take a look around them. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Cynthia. Dudley coming in, computers were expected to eliminate the need for paper. Yes, the opposite has happened. Yes, and a lot of people are going back to just writing things down on paper just because it slows down and they can actually remember what they're writing. Deanna putting, our relationship and connectivity to one another has been one of the greatest casualties of this business. Yes, busyness. We are lonelier than ever because we are too busy for the unplanned connection. Yes. And I think that is when we were talking about the greatest enemy of love is busyness. It really is, because I forgot who said it, but Max mentions this all the time about how love is often spelled T-I-M-E, and in order to have time or to spend time, you can't be busy. And in order to show love, I mean, I've never shown more love by being more busy. Usually when I'm in a hurried state, when I'm busy, got the next thing to do, that's usually the times when I'm showing the least amount of love. And hurry and love are definitely incompatible. And so we're going to talk about that. So let's look at our symptoms here of hurry sickness, okay? John Mark Comer lists 10 possible symptoms of hurry sickness. So get your fingers ready, because I'm going to read brief descriptions from some of these, and then just see how many out of 10 are you. Are you 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 10 out of 10 on your symptoms of hurry sickness? So the first symptoms would be irritability. Maybe you get mad or frustrated, or just annoyed way too easily. Like little things, normal things just kind of irk you. People have to maybe tiptoe around you when you are a little frustrated and you are negative. The second symptom would be hypersensitivity. Maybe it takes is just a minor comment to hurt your feelings, or a grumpy email to set you off, or a little turn of events to throw you into emotional funk and ruin your day. Do minor things quickly escalate to major things for you? Maybe this might show up as anger, or being nitpicky, or anxious or depressed, or maybe even just tired. So that's sensitivity. The next symptom is restlessness. When you actually, restless defined, when you actually try to slow down and rest, you just can't relax. You try to maybe give Sabbath a try and you hate it. You read scripture, but you find it boring. You have quiet time with God, but you can't focus your mind. Maybe you go to bed early, but you toss and turn with anxiety. You watch TV, but you're simultaneously checking your phone, folding laundry, scrolling on Instagram, or maybe just answering an email. Restlessness. So far, I'm like 3 for 3, guys. The next one is workaholism. Maybe you just don't know when to stop working. You just can't stop doing things. Or worse, hour, day by day, another week, you just are trying to do more and more and more and more. Maybe you're accomplishing things or just accumulating things. Maybe it shows up as a careerism or just obsessive house cleaning or errand running. And as a result, you might fall prey to sunset fatigue, where the day's over and then you have nothing left for your spouse or children or loved ones. The next one is emotional numbness. So far, I'm like 4 for 4, guys. You just don't have the capacity to feel other people's pain or your own pain, for that matter. You're so busy that empathy is a rare feeling for you. You just don't have time for it. To the next column, maybe it's out of order priorities. You feel disconnected with your identity. You're always getting sucked into the urgent and not the important. Your life is very reactive and not proactive. You're busier than before, and you just don't feel like you have time for what really matters. The next symptom might be lack of care for your body. Maybe you have time for the basics, but maybe you just can't really get 8 hours of sleep. Maybe you don't exercise daily, or you don't eat healthy. Maybe you have you get sick multiple times a year. Maybe you wake up tired, or you don't really sleep very well. That's lack of care for your body. The next one is escapist behaviors, when you're too tired to do what is actually life-giving for your soul. Maybe you turn to a distraction of choice. Maybe it's overeating, overdrinking, binge watching, browsing on social media, surfing the web. It's just an escapist behavior. And then 2 more. Slippage of spiritual disciplines. When you get over busy, the things that are truly life-giving for your soul are the first to go rather than your go-to, such as a quiet time in the morning. Your scripture, prayer, Sabbath, worship on Sunday, meal with your community, those get put on the table. And then the final one is isolation. This is what Deanna was talking about. You feel disconnected from God and others and your own soul. On the rare times when you actually stop to pray, you're so stressed and distracted that your mind can't settle long enough to enjoy your Father's company. And same with your friends. When you're with them, you're also with your phone or a million miles away in your mind, running down the to-do list. And even when you're alone, you come to face with the void that is your soul and immediately run back to the familiar groove of busyness and digital distraction. And wow, that is a mouthful. So I don't know about you guys, but I think I was like 10 for 10. So let me know what your score was. Don't let me feel so bad. All of those, honestly, all of those resonate with me. And that's a sign for me. If I have 10 out of 10 symptoms, it's a sign that I have that sickness and I need to find a remedy for that. So, all right, Max coming in and with busyness is the new worldliness, Chip Ingram, and it's so true. So true, Max. Yeah, Max said 9, and yeah, and that's Pastor Max. So all of us, I just want to reassure us: is we're not showing these, and I don't think John Mark was showing these 10 symptoms for us to feel bad about it. It's just for us to be honest with the way that hurry has influenced and impacted our lives, and it's just the culture around us, and we have to be very intentional about preparing our bodies, our minds to live in a way that is not hurried. And we're going to talk about that solution a little bit. So Bernie says, wow, I did not know I suffered from an illness. Yeah, tell me about it. And for me being 10 for 10, I'm like, okay, I really suffer. Dudley coming in, emotional behavioral systems eventually lead to physical symptoms, yes, and always have spiritual implications. Some degree, I'm always 10 for 10. Yeah, absolutely, in some degree. I'm sure there's certain areas that are, for all of us, that are more areas of concern than others, but you're right, Dudley, about that connection between your emotional, behavioral, spiritual, and even physical. It's all connected, and yeah, that's a great point, and we'll come back to that later. Deanna says they all resonate for me as well, not necessarily simultaneously, but in pockets. Some consistently show up for me. Yes, absolutely. Cynthia, at least a 5. Awesome. Well, you're our hero, Cynthia. All right, let's go. Let's go and talk about what our solution is, okay? Because we don't want to hang too much here in the problem area. So our solution, this is difficult to say, it's the shoulder solution. Don't try to say that 5 times fast, the shoulder solution. And there's a question that I want to start with. Maybe you guys can put something in there. Where do you go if you had, so let's say we have the sickness and we experience all of this hurry. Where do you go for rest? Where do you go for rest? And what would you do if you had more time to rest? Because often one of the solutions is, well, I've said this many times, well, I just wish I had more time to rest. But I guess the question is, what would I really even do with that time if I had it? Would I just kind of cram it with some other stuff? Because usually more often than not, when we find rest in certain places and practices, it ends up leaving us more tired and depressed than before. So I'm just curious where you guys go to for rest. As you guys are putting that in, I think for me, what I go to probably most for rest, apart from God, is probably just to scheduling things and trying to be like more productive. That's probably my go-to. There's like safety there in that for me, productivity, and it's very ironic that I'm trying to be more productive with my rest time. Anyways, let's see. Yeah, irony. Bernie says, when you are resting, we are thinking big, more things to do. Yeah, absolutely. Very true. That's what happens. Our brain goes there. All right, so let's talk about where we should go for our rest. And Jesus addresses this very specifically in Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. And he says this: "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Wow, that's powerful. Very direct answer to our question, where should we go for rest? And it's to him, to Jesus. Sam and Betty Ann they say walking is restful for us. Yes, that's something that Sarah Beth and I have found during COVID, that we never experienced before, just going on a walk together. Very restful. And Deanna says, I don't think I really found out my best place for rest. Yes, that is definitely a work in progress for me, Deanna, too. We'll talk about that later in some of the exercises, but it's something I'm really trying to figure out. Hi, Vicky. Good to see you. She says that she just sits and thinks about about her life and how she's living it. That's very good. That's very good, Vicky. Sam says, especially on the beach. There you go. Very true. There's something about the sound of the waves, as long as you're wearing a jacket, because I get really cold. But something about the sound of the waves is just very peaceful, very grounding. Dudley says, I go inside my head and I try to withdraw for a short time. I try to step back and take stock of the situation from a bird's eye view. Perhaps this is where I find the presence of God. Yes. And we're going to see some of these practices that you guys are actually exercising. These are practices that we can use to actually eliminate some of the hurry in our lives. Jenna says painting is her place of rest. Oh, that's a good one, Jenna. Very good. I think Sarah Beth would enjoy that too. She is definitely a painter. All right, so let's get back to Jesus here. And I love the way that Eugene Peterson translated Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30. And I wanted to read that to you too. Again, this is what Jesus says. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Like that line. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Now, this verse, I don't know, at first glance, it can be kind of confusing, I think, because, when Jesus says, come to me, right, and then I will give you rest, right, and then what his solution is to take my yoke on you. And a yoke is like you got that image of oxen, carrying a yoke and work, right? It's a working instrument, right? So why would Jesus recommend an instrument of work when we need like an instrument of rest? I think the thing, though, that Jesus is looking at is not just our schedule. He's looking deeper. He's not just seeing the outside and the fruit of our hurriedness. He's seeing the root of our hurriedness, which is at our heart. And his goal is really ultimately for us to be with him, side by side, yoked up with him, so that we can learn to be like him. So again, his goal is for us to be with him so that we can learn to be like him. We cannot learn to be like him if we are not yoked up with him. And we can't walk or experience the life, the love, and the peace and joy that he has if we are not walking at his speed, at his pace, learning from him. I really like what John Mark Comer says here. He says, excuse me. He says, Jesus doesn't offer us an escape. He offers us something far better, equipment. And it is not just like a tool. It's actually the act of being equipped. He offers his apprentices a whole new way to bear the weight of our humanity with ease. At his side, like two oxen in a field tied shoulder to shoulder, with Jesus doing all the heavy lifting. At his pace, slow, unhurried, present, to the moment, full of love and joy and peace. An easy life isn't an option. An easy yoke is. I love that last line. Jesus is not offering just an easy life. It's not an escape from reality. It's not an escape from the world, right? It's equipping to handle the world. So the easy life is not an option, but the easy yoke is. We can either try to handle it all on our own, or we can allow Jesus to share that load and do the heavy lifting and walk with him at his pace and learn how to carry the weight of the work, carry the weight of life and the hurry of life in a way that is easy. And I think that he ultimately, if we want to experience the life of Jesus, we have to adopt his lifestyle. And John Mark Comer, I like this quote too from the book. He says, the Western church has lost sight of the fact that the way of Jesus is just that, a way of life. It is not just a set of ideas, what we call theology, or a list of do's and don'ts, what we call ethics. I mean, it is that, but it is so much more. It is a way of life based upon that of Jesus himself, a lifestyle. So ultimately, following Jesus has to make it into our weekly schedule, our weekly rhythms. Those, like Eugene Peterson said, are the rhythms of grace. It's the daily habits, the way that we approach things, that really are going to allow us to experience the life that Jesus has to offer for us, and to walk at his pace. So let me go ahead and catch up with you in the chat, and then we're going to talk about 4 practices that Jesus modeled for us. So when we're talking about the lifestyle of Jesus, there are 4 key practices that he mentions in the book that we're going to break down. And these practices are habits that we can include in our lives that will lead us to experiencing the life. So they're lifestyles, they're habits that lead us to experience the love that we need to fulfill the greatest commandment and to live in an unhurried life. So before we get into these practices, which are silence and solitude, Sabbath, simplicity, and slowing, let's go ahead and catch up with the chat here. Deanna says that, Cynthia says she listens to Chopin. Very good. We were listening to Tchaikovsky on the way there. I do like listening to classical music. I just listened to some last night. Deanna says, because painting is so therapeutic for Jenna, we had to be intentional about creating a space for her in that room. She has to work to make it happen. She won't do it as often. If she has to work to make it happen. Yeah, absolutely. What do they say? Like, if the things that you enjoy doing, you get paid for or work for, you kind of robs you of the joy from it. That's definitely one of those things. Having it always accessible makes the rest so readily possible. This is something we all need to do to be successful at incorporating rest. Yes, totally agreed. Dudley coming in. Painting, yes, a lot of our enjoyable activities are times of meditation when our thoughts slow down and we overhear the still small voice of God. Yes, it's really about being slow, and that's definitely one of the 4 here. So we have silence and solitude, Sabbath, simplicity, and slowing. We're going to talk about all 4 of those practices. Sarah Beth coming in and she says, creating things with my hands is very therapeutic for me. It can be as simple as putting together a flower arrangement. Yeah, absolutely. I love that saying. If you work with your head, Sabbath with your hands, and if you work with your hands, Sabbath with your head. I do a lot of head work. for my work, and so I do enjoy Sabbathing with my hands. I know it is considered work, or technically is work, um, but I do like just creating things with my hands. It's very peaceful and relaxing for me. Um, all right, Dudley says, it just occurred to me that to share the yoke of Jesus is easy because we can stop trying to take responsibility for things that do not belong to us. He is in charge. Yes, absolutely, Dudley. When we try to carry the yoke of the world on our own, we're just saying, yeah, I got it. We can handle it. And when we are sharing that load, we put God in his rightful place. And that's how the flow of grace happens, when we are in the right place and God is in his place, and then that flow of grace can happen. That's a great point, Dudley. Thank you for mentioning that. Jaden says he loves classical music too. Yes, Jaden is an old soul for sure. All right, so let's look at these 4 different practices here. And I just want to say, as we are going through these practices, I want you to think about how you can practically apply them to your life. Okay, so these are practices. Obviously, Jesus is the solution. Okay, these practices aren't in themselves are not the solution. Jesus is the solution, but these practices are ways, they're disciplines, they're habits that allow you to get into the presence of God. Because one of the things is that, most of the time the busyness is not really. Most of the time, as Christians, we are not. The busyness is impacting our lives, and it's not destroying our faith, but it's preventing us really from living the life that God has wanted us to live. And it's almost like it's like the hurry sickness is not killing us, if that makes sense, but it's making it very difficult for us to live our lives. I don't know anybody who's lived through or is currently with. I know Deanna is just having this kind of chronic illness and just ongoing illness and sickness. It's very discouraging, and a lot of times as Christians, that can be part of our life if we are not intentional about putting these habits in place that will get us into the presence of God, which is the solution to our hurry and our busyness. So, tangent aside, let's go ahead and talk about the first solution, which is silence and solitude. So, silence and solitude, just a quick question. How would you feel about being alone and quiet with no phone, no music, no TV, or background noise? Is that good for you? You're like, yes, I love that. Or you're like, that's going to be torture for me. I couldn't even do it. So this is definitely a solution. It's the most radical, I think, of the 4 practices. And I think many would say that this is probably the most difficult of all the practices of Jesus. It's this silence and solitude, especially in our culture today. So the working definition of this is it is intentional time in the quiet to be alone with God and our own soul. Just quiet. Most of the time when we're experiencing that, we're like, I'm bored. We always have to have like multiple things going on, right? Even now, probably during church this morning, I'm sure there are many people that are multitasking. That's just one of those things, right? It's really difficult for us to just spend time alone and just be quiet. But this time of silence and solitude is the place, and this is space where we make for God. It's the space that we make for God to really love us and to transform us into people of love. We cannot be transformed unless we have that space. So this practice, there's two dimensions for it. There's the external and internal. So there's the external part where we just get away from all the noise, everything, and we get in a place where it's quiet. And then once we get that, there's the harder part, which is the internal part, is quieting our own soul and our mind and calming ourselves and centering our minds on God until we find rest in Him. So here's the key to this practice, and we're going to talk about 4 different exercises for this in a moment. The key, though, is to really find, it's that external and internal. So find a place and a time that you can get alone with God, where there's no distraction, where it's as quiet as possible. That's the key, because it's impossible to do this in a place or a time when there's just distraction and noise. So that could be early in the morning, late at night. Let me go ahead and check up with you guys. Let's see. Deanna putting in, this would not have bothered me, but after being married to Max for almost 25 years, I've become conditioned to something always going on, so it would be hard for me. Yes, very true. Jaden says, in an open forest midwinter on a mountain. Yes, I would probably enjoy it. Yes. So Jaden is like, don't put me in a room just that's white and nothing else and just a chair. I might go crazy. He's like, I got to have a little bit of something around me. I kind of agree with you. Out in nature is great, Jaden. Without any distractions, my thoughts would make me go crazy, Bernie says. Very true. Sarah Beth says, it's easier for me to do the alone time, but not the quiet time. Very true, Sarah Beth. Yeah, just getting away from people, but then like, I don't know, something might need to go on. I need to be like reading something or listening to something. Cynthia says, that would be beautiful. Yes. Yes, Jaden is very specific about what he like. He's very particular. He already knows. So, Cynthia says, if I could turn my brain off for a minute, that would be great. Yes. Dudley says, I love traveling through the redwoods, majestic, quiet, and peaceful. Yes, I'm with you. I think being, and like with Jaden too, I think being out, I think Sarah Beth would agree too, just being out in nature, I think would be probably the best place to be quiet. All right, so let's look at 4 different exercises, guys. And in these exercises for silence and solitude, so think about it as exercises like you're working out, okay? These are, you don't have to do all of them, but these are exercises that you can use to strengthen that muscle of silence and solitude in your everyday life. The first is a breathing prayer, where you're essentially breathing out the bad and breathing in the good. I'm not going to go into more detail. You can research this later, but another thing, an exercise is the feeling and listening prayer. So where you're just sharing your emotions, your feelings to God, and then you're pausing and listening for His answer. The third exercise that you can do in silence and solitude is called Lectio Divina, which is Latin for spiritual reading. This is kind of like the soap that Pastor Max teaches us how to do, and it's basically centered around Scripture. So you read Scripture, you reflect on its meaning, and then you respond to it. You respond to God and how it is He is applying it to your life, and then you rest in it, and that's the general process for that. And then the last exercise is an actual retreat. This is probably the most difficult one, to actually spend a whole day alone with God. A whole day alone with God, in some silence and solitude. So think about which of these exercises maybe you would want to try if you are wanting to create some silence and solitude. So there's silence and solitude. Okay. All right, let's go to the next practice. The next practice is Sabbath. And I'm not going to do a whole bunch of extensive teaching on that. Pastor Max has done a tremendous job on that already. I encourage you to look back in the archive on that. So Sabbath, question for that is, how do you typically spend your days off? Okay, so what do you do on your day off? What does that look like for you? And there are 4 different exercises for developing a habit of Sabbath. This is definitely one for me that I have not been successful in this. I've tried, and this is definitely an area of huge growth for me. I need to carve out some time Sabbath, which is a 24-hour period basically, where you are stopping, you're resting, you're delighting, and you're worshiping. But it's 24 hours. Very difficult for me. Very difficult for me. So before I get into the exercises, let's see. Let me catch up with you guys on the chat here. Dudley says, these are great exercises. I used to think prayer was my pleading with God. Now I think it can. We can be in an extended prayerful attitude of listening. Yes, absolutely. Even had a great conversation with my boss. We were talking about, she was talking about how, because I had talked to her about different ways to connect with God. And we were talking about the importance of being silent, and that she has now started to add that to her prayer time, and just being quiet and listening and being present with God. And that has really made a difference for her. So thank you for putting that in there, Dudley. It's a great point. So let's look at these exercises. Deanna Pudding says, we have a monk retreat in Big Sur that is an amazing place to disconnect. Ooh, that looks cool. That sounds great. Max did this a few years ago. There is no cell service and no talking. Wow. He had his own cabin and spent 3 days just with God. Wow. And I bet there was no quote-unquote talking, but I'm sure there was plenty of conversation and time with God. That is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So when it comes to Sabbath, there are 4 exercises that will help us with Sabbath. The first exercise is a planning day. So getting in the practice of planning or scheduling your 24-hour period. I think a lot of times the reasons why we can't do Sabbath, at least for me, is we don't really plan ahead. Like if you plan ahead, you could probably pull it off. And I think this is an essential exercise if we want to get that habit started in our lives, is just to plan ahead. Plan what needs to be done beforehand, what appointments need to be. So basically, you don't have to run any errands. You don't have to do anything for that day. But it's hard to just pick up and say, hey, yeah, tomorrow I'm just going to take 24 hours and, Sabbath, if you haven't planned for it, because there's things are going to be coming up. So that, I think, is the number one exercise. And I think that's something that an exercise I need to start implementing if I'm wanting to have this habit of Sabbath in my life. The second exercise is having a practice day. So, and not actually practicing, but doing the practice of Sabbath. So that's spending a 24-hour period doing the 4 aspects of Sabbath, which is stopping, resting, delighting, and worshiping. The third exercise is a digital detox. That's another way to Sabbath. So aside from what is necessary for work, we schedule time to power off all devices, putting them out of sight and out of mind. Very difficult, but very, very helpful. The fourth exercise that we can use for Sabbath is called the daily office. This is something we've talked about in our emotionally healthy spirituality. with Pete Scazzaro. He talks a lot about the daily office is basically pausing at set times throughout the day to set your heart on God in prayer, and that usually you do a daily office in the morning, in the afternoon, and then at nighttime. So those are some ideas, some exercises that you can implement into your everyday life, and to encourage the practice of Sabbath. All right, let me catch up with you guys as we go to our next practice, which is simplicity. Jaden says, I'll try and play some video game music with my friends and siblings, or I just reread a book and do some reflection and nap. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Jaden. Yeah. Deanna says, I'm currently in a season of feeling like I have no days off. Yeah, exactly right. That is so true. I feel like I've been in that season for a while. Deanna says, I technically do, but I haven't carved out some time to do only what I want to do to ensure I feel rested. Yeah, I really think that's the key, at least for me, that predicting that's the key for me. I think if I plan it out, then I can do it. All right, let's go to our next practice, which is simplicity. Okay, here's your question. What was the last fun purchase that you made? What was the last fun purchase that you made? Wow, I'm trying to think of my fun purchase. Last fun purchase I made. I think it was just like a camera, kind of a whole camera system, just taking pictures and with a gimbal and all that other stuff. It's probably a fun purchase that I made. And let's see if anybody else has made any fun purchases lately. Deanna says, now we're talking. Yeah. So when we're talking about fun purchases, I think we do that all the time. And there's a reason I prompted that question in terms of having simplicity as a practice that we want to have. Let's see. Does food count? Ice cream, yes. Food does count. Ice cream is for sure. Let me say, we went to Disneyland, and I think pretty much anything that you would purchase in Disneyland would be called a fun purchase. So things that normally do not cost that amount would be called a fun purchase. You're there, and you're just gonna get it because you're having fun. So, and I'm not saying this so that anyone feels guilty. I just want us to reflect on just the way that we spend our lives. And part of our lives is our time. So part of it is our money. So Deanna says, Jenna bought a pair of jeans that were unique and definitely fun. Bernie says, fun purchase, a tool that allows me to repair plumbing issues without having to weld. Ooh, that's nice. Yeah, I did a couple of fun tool. That's probably what my fun purchases are. Even more recently than that, it's just tools. Yeah, got a Akita lawnmower, pretty nice. All right. Sam says, I've been looking for a brass sundial and found one on this trip. There you go. I know for my father-in-law, his fun purchases are these wooden statues. I know he loves seeing those, so if he sees one, that's going to be a fun purchase. And then Deanna says, we don't make a lot of quote-unquote fun purchases. All right, so when it comes to that, and it comes to simplicity, bringing back simplicity in our lives, sometimes we end up, I don't know about you, we ended up with a lot of quote-unquote fun purchases. We live in a consumer economy, and a lot of times our simplicity gets attacked because we bring a lot of these things on ourselves, because everything that we purchase, everything we commit to, it takes time out of our lives. It takes time, it takes money. We have to organize it, we have to store it, we have to do things with it. And simplicity is the opposite of that, where we're trying to trim down the things that we're having to manage in our lives. And we're not saying that we can't enjoy certain things and have minimalist luxury, that kind of thing, and purchase good things. That we're not saying that at all. But it's important, especially in America, in our consumer culture, that we really take inventory periodically at all the things that we're having to manage, because it creates a lot of complexity in our lives. So simplicity, called minimalism, is a way of life where we intentionally prioritize the things that really matter by cutting out all the things that are ancillary and stripping down our life to make abiding the center of everything. It's a life that's focused in a cultural moment of distraction, and it's intentionally living with less to make space for more of what we value most. That's the key. So it's intentionally living less with less to make space for more of what we value the most. So to translate that, that means less clothes, less stuff, less things that we don't really need, less hobbies, less options, more prayer, more joy, more peace, more loving relationships. So let's take a look at 4 exercises for simplicity, 4 areas really of life. So the first exercise is to simplify your clothing, making a habit of periodically going through your clothes and really trying to have a more minimal wardrobe. So one thing is to challenge yourself to have as few items of clothing as possible, to where you're mixing and matching. So I don't know if you want to go as extreme as Steve Jobs and do the turtleneck thing, be my guest. But it's really the practice of trying to trim things down. The second exercise is your stuff, which would be the same. You go through the same process of simplifying that, making a habit of decluttering all the stuff in your home, and starting one room at a time. We have a little 4S process for our declutter. We either decide to do 1 or 4 things. We either save it, we store it, we share it, or we sell it. And so maybe that would be helpful for you, just going through and just deciding whether you're going to keep it or get rid of it. The third exercise, place where we can exercise simplicity, is in our paperwork. That involves like digitizing things, and sometimes we have mounds and mounds of paperwork that doesn't need to be physical. Or if you're like me and everything is digital, kind of going through and saying like, what do I actually need? Kind of clearing your desktop, so to speak. I don't know if you've ever opened up someone's computer. I do this all the time at work, and then their desktop is just cluttered with all kinds of files and stuff. So basically deciding really what you're going to need, all the inboxes in your life, what do you actually need, and what are you actually working with. So doing a digital declutter would be good too. And then finally, exercise 4, which is time and money. Time blocking your schedule, to where you're scheduling your values, and making sure you're putting on the calendar. So if you want to spend time in Sabbath, actually putting it on your calendar. If you want to spend time in prayer, actually putting it on your calendar. As crazy as that sounds, really blocking off your time shows that you value that. And then finally, having some simplicity in your budget. When it comes to money, really creating a budget and sticking with it, and sticking to it. That's a great way to build some simplicity in your life. So there you go. All right. Bernie says, let me catch on you guys. Jaden says, I bought some hardware to modify one of my Nerf blasters. No regrets. Yes. Dudley says, I purchased a toolbox trying to organize and simplify. That was a fun purchase. Yes, and that's a very practical purchase. You're kind of like me, Dudley. My fun purchases are just pretty practical too. Vicky says, I really need to live this way. Yes, absolutely. We all do. Bernie says, I have a closet full of clothes, and yet I wear the same item. Sounds like a something to bag up and sell, or donate. Bernie, have a garage sale. All right. Martha says, "Sorry guys, my internet is acting. I missed a lot of service. No worries. I'm gonna have to rewatch again. No worries, Martha. That's all right. You can jump in later." Dudley saying, "Minimalism is a good trend. How much do we really need? That's difficult for pack rats like me. It's difficult for all of us. It's one of those things you can't just do it once and then like, yay, and I'm done. It's an ongoing practice of simplicity in our lives." Sarah Beth says, "I think it's a guy thing." Oh my gosh. Thanks, Sarah Beth. Closet full of clothes and wear the same thing. She's always trying to get me to wear different clothes, and I'm like, I'm gonna wear the same thing I actually took like almost a year, and I wore the same like 5 shirts, one for every day of the week. I don't think Sarah Beth was really happy about that, but Sam saying, "Though you had a short time to prepare, you did an extra job." Thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. Thank you. All right. Let's go to our last practice. This is probably the toughest one. Well, aside from Sabbath. I think Sabbath for me is one of the toughest. All right, it's slowing. Okay. Here's your question, everybody. Do you actually prefer a fast-paced lifestyle or one that is slow? That's a good question. I don't know if I can honestly answer that I prefer a slow pace. Some things I do like fast pace. Maybe that's just because I'm so used to it. This one's tough. The basic idea behind this practice of slowing is that you have to literally slow down your body. You slow down everything in your life to experience an unrushed state of mind. Even like slowing my talking, right, feels so weird to me. And but that's key to slowing down your mind, slowing down your life. If we look in the scriptures, Jesus was never in a hurry. So he had a very slow, I'm not saying like he's crawling, or wandering, meandering, but he did have a slow but deliberate pace to his life. And if you think about it, all the stories that we see in Scripture, they were interruptions from Jesus' schedule. I mean, he was very slow and deliberate, but he created room in his life for interruptions to happen that eventually became the stories in the 4 Gospels. So it's important for us to, if we're yoked up with Jesus and he's walking at a slow pace, we literally have to take his pace. And there's some things that we can only experience if we are just kind of slowing down, literally slowing down. John Ortberg, he defines slowing as cultivating patience by deliberately choosing to place ourselves in positions where we simply have to wait. This is hard. So when we say love is patient, right? And that's the first description of love, and being patient. Intentionally putting myself in situations or positions where I have to wait is so difficult for me. Like literally I'm choosing the longer line at the store so that I have to wait. So counterintuitive, right? Going the long way around to a destination just to make myself wait. Seems so counterintuitive, right? But so true. So let's look at some exercises here. Let's see what you guys think about fast pace and slow. Let's see. Sam says slow. Jennifer prefers somewhere in the middle. She thinks she'd get bored if it were slow. Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Jenna. Sarah Beth says slow. I think the older I get, the slower I want. Maybe it's just because I'm physically slower. Sam says could be my age. Hey, there you go. Bernie says my wife considers my fast pace way too slow. Oh my God, Bernie. Would you hurry up on this project? Oh my God. Vicky says, I really prefer a slow lifestyle. Jaden says, same, slow. Swan says, slow. Dudley says, I think sometimes we to stay busy as a distraction from something that we need. Oh, so true, Dudley. But would like to avoid. Slowing down is threatening. Yes, very true. A lot of times we like to keep ourselves busy so that our minds are not occupied on certain. We stay busy because there are certain pains in our life, and we go down to the root of it. There's a reason a lot of people want to stay busy. They do not want to address some of the fears that are in our lives and insecurities that we have. So you're right on, Dudley. I completely agree with you. And then Vicky says, Tuan, with all you do. I think there's it's absolutely right. Sometimes there's this discrepancy between the ideal and the real, right? There's the life that we want and then the life that we actually live. And there's always that tension. We're trying to get to the ideal without just completely ignoring the real world. And let's see, Sam says, it's not the one who runs the fastest. Yes, that's very true. Ask the tortoise, right? Jaden says he's leaning more a bit to the slow side. Sarah Beth says our kids are growing too fast, so I think a slow pace would be the best to enjoy them. Very true. Very true, Sarah Beth. I completely agree. Deanna says the idea of slow sounds wonderful, but truthfully, I know I personally move through life fast. I'm the same way. So I'd probably get annoyed. It would only work for me if all of society slowed down. Did you get the fast pass? Yeah, crazy enough. They even eliminated that fast pass. I guess it wasn't making enough money for them. So like me and Sarah were talking about, you have to buy a lightning pass. It's not just fast pass. It's now lightning. Fast was not fast enough. You got to have lightning. And in order to get the lightning pass, you have to pay per ride to go into the lightning line. So pretty wild. So they've now moved from fast. Fast was not fast enough. Now it's lightning speed. So yeah, and they're making more money from it for sure. Hey, what's up, Joe? Good to see you. He says my kids don't know the meaning of the word slow. Yeah, exactly. Working in a school, that is like the enemy of any teacher is doing something slow. You're going to lose them by the end of it. Yeah, it's lightening out. It's crazy. All right, so let's look at some practices as we kind of wrap things up here. So some exercises to add some. Ooh, I put simplicity. That is not simplicity. Slow. Sorry about that. Slowing. So some practices for slowing down your life would be, number one, pick a game to slow down your life. And what he means by the picking a game is you kind of treat it like a game. Because if you're just practical about everything, you're going to want to say like, well, I'm going to choose the fastest route. So for example, driving the speed limit. I feel like I've broke all these games just in the past few days. Driving the speed limit would be a game. Getting into the slow lane would be a game. So you could go faster, but you're intentionally getting the slow lane. Coming to a full stop at stop signs. Yeah, I probably broke that one. Don't text and drive. That should be a really good, that should not be a game. I think that should just be a law. Anyways, showing up 10 minutes early for an appointment without your phone. Getting into the longest line at the grocery store. That's going to be a tough one for me, but yes, there you go. So that could be, you can add your own game, but those are some ideas for you. So the second exercise would be, so instead of adding some games to your life, cutting 1 to 3 things out of your schedule. That's another exercise. So cutting out TV, maybe, from your schedule. Or maybe it's cutting out social media for a time. Maybe cutting out the amount of time that you spend online, simplifying your life. Maybe you're cutting out video games out of your life. Don't tell that to Logan. Maybe it's just you're cutting out some social obligations, your commitments that you commit to. The third practice is turning your smartphone into a dumb phone. So basically, disabling certain functions on your phone, deleting certain apps, only using a few things. Maybe it's silencing all of your notifications. Boom, there's a big one right there. Like, turn notifications off, like all of them. Turn them all off. And maybe just using, maybe moving all of your apps to a second screen, so where when you turn it on, you don't see really anything. So turning your smartphone into a dumb phone. And then the last exercise could be parenting your dumb phone. So being a parent for it, which means basically you turn, if you're a parent, you send your kids to bed before you go to bed. And maybe we should be sending our phones to bed before we go to bed. Maybe getting a real alarm clock instead of using our phones to wake us up. And maybe reading and praying with our phones off to the side, and maybe not reading the Bible from our phones. So parenting our dumb phone. There you go. So those are some exercises that we can do. I don't know if any of those stood out to you, but yeah, those are some ways that we can slow down our lives. So let's go ahead and wrap it up, everybody. So as we kind of look through this whole topic of slowing our lives down and not being in such a hurry, and looking at these 4 practices that can bring love back into our lives and slow us down, prevent us from being in such a hurry. Just a question, which of these 4 practices do you think that you could add to your weekly schedule? So just choose one. Just choose one. What is the one practice that you're yoked up with Jesus, and you know that if I can just do this practice, this will really help. Don't feel pressured to do them all. That would literally be counterproductive to what we're trying to do here. One thing at a time. Go slow. What's the one practice that you can integrate into your life? So is it silence and solitude? Is it Sabbath? Maybe that's the practice that you want to start integrating. Maybe it's simplicity. Maybe it's slowing. What is the practice that you want to work on? I know for me, I think I really think that I want to do some more simplicity. That combined with some silence and solitude, really just having some space. Like Dudley said, I get very introverted, so having some quiet time, space for just silence is just so helpful for me. It gets me in the right state of mind. It gets rid of the speed sickness that we all experience, and helps me not to exhibit those symptoms. So that's for me. Let me see. Let me catch up with you guys. Dudley saying, I used to advise patients to follow the tortoise principle. Slow and steady wins the race. Easier said than done. Yes, very true, Dudley. He also put in, many of us would find slow to be boring. Yeah. Boring, but healthy. Boring, but healthy. Aren't all, most things that are healthy kind of boring? I don't know. Do you want me to get in a long line without my phone? Are you a monster? Yes. I know, Joe, right? When I read that one, I was like, I don't know. Maybe that's why I skipped slowing as my practice of choice. I'm not ready yet for that, Joe. I have not reached that slowing level to be able to go on the long line. That's probably gonna be my last practice, is slowing. It's gonna be tough for me. Sam putting in, this trip has been relaxing because I drove 55 from coast to coast. Ooh, nice. Very nice. One day I will have the slowing practice perfected, and I can do that too, Sam. Um, my English does something like that. My English teacher, maybe. He has a phone, but all it does is tell him the time, date, and the calendar. But he has an emergency phone in case something happens. Yeah, that's good, Jaden. Good practice for us, right? Just the essentials. Dudley coming in with simplify. That's a good one, Dudley. Vicky coming with this simplicity too. Sam coming with Sabbath. Yeah, that's a tough one, Sam. And let's see, Deanna. I'm starting with simplicity. That seems the easiest to start with, and I'll use it as a filter for making decisions. Yeah, it's a great point, Deanna. If you're just getting started with some of these practices and like, I'm barely yoking up here with Jesus, I think that simplicity is a great place to start. A lot of these practices are a little more difficult, so and there's nothing wrong with just starting with one. So Jaden going with slowing, that's good, Jaden. Sarah Beth, Silence and Solitude, same as me. Maybe we can, no, we can't do that together because that's me, Solitude. And then Jaden's coming in. Sometimes I bite off more than I should chew. I end up getting things done, but end up inducing stress and anxiety. Yes, very true. Joe says, I drove Highway 1 down to LA once. It was glorious. Yes, it is a beautiful view. We actually took the long way down from San Diego too, and it was beautiful. So, all right, everybody, let's go ahead and pray. And I want to pray for you because it's really easy for all of these practices to kind of get lost in the endless stream of information, right, that we're getting. I've been talking way too long, but even such, just hearing these things, that there is the, what do they say, the longest distance between the head and the heart, right? And probably even longer is from the heart to the hands to actually doing things, because we consume so much information, we learn so much, but how much does that translate into what we actually do? And so I want to pray with you, for you, that God would help you to put these exercises, these habits into practice. And really the goal for today is just to kind of spark something for you to kind of initiate a new lifestyle. So living for God, our life with Jesus, is not just theology or just something that we kind of mentally ascend to. It's something we put actually into practice in our lives. It's a lifestyle that allows us to really hear and then obey the greatest commandment. And it's a lifestyle that's ultimately connected with Jesus, that walks at his speed and experiences the love, the joy, and the peace that comes from being at rest in our souls. So let's pray. Thank you, Father, for this Monarchs family. Thank you for everyone that will watch this video, God. And I pray, Lord, that this would be a spark for us to inspire us to build those habits that lead us to a closer relationship with you. And I pray, Lord, that in these practices of silence and solitude, Sabbath, simplicity, and slowing, that you would walk with us as we try to live in that kind of lifestyle, step by step with us, encouraging us. You don't want perfection in our lives, Lord. That's what you are for. You're carrying the heavy load of perfection. All you want us to do is to practice and to make progress and to put into practice the things that you are showing us and leading us towards. And we identify the sickness, the hurry sickness that's in our lives, and we see that same sickness in others. And I pray that you would use our relationship with you and the stability and the rest that we find in our souls and you to be light to those who are around us who are sick. And I pray that the practices that we put into place in our lives would be a launching pad for discussion, and that we would be able to share the benefits of a relationship with you, God, and the purpose that we have with you and only with you. And I pray that you would use us to bless others and to transform this world one person at a time. And we thank you for this time together in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, everybody. So I want to leave you real quick with a couple things. There is a Bible study on Right Now Media that breaks down all the chapters in this book, The Ruthless, Elimination, Hurry. I highly recommend that you take some time and go through that. It's not super long, and then he also has some questions, devotional questions, to go with that. So Right Now Media, go find this Bible study, and it will be a blessing to you. That's one of your next steps. And for those of you who have not are not yet a part of our Monarchs Church, there's a few different places where you can connect with us. All of it is found in monarchs.church, and we have our website, and then we have our Facebook online group where we post different things and keep you updated, and things related to Bible study, etc. So if you're not on our Facebook group, go ahead and jump on there. And then if you jump on there, we have a free gift for you, which is Right Now Media, which I spoke about the video being on. So if you don't have access to Right Now Media, I highly encourage you. It's a great place for you to find good truth and to rest in God and to connect with Him. Good place to consume. We consume so much information. It's a good place to get information that is actually healthy for your soul. So highly encourage you to do that. Nobody looks at your viewing history. It's absolutely free if you go ahead and sign up for our Facebook group. And then we also meet in prayer online in our Monarchs prayer group on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you can find all of that information at monarchs.church. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in this morning. It was a pleasure to kind of host this discussion, and I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I hope you kind of take these kind of thoughts into this season of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and really try to put these habits in place so that when the rest of the world is just pushing, busy, faster, you are coming at that from a place of grace and a place of rest, and you're not trying to look for rest. You already have rest, and that's my prayer for all of you. So I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving this week. Enjoy that, and it was a pleasure again sharing this Sunday with you. All right. God bless everybody. Have a wonderful break.